Hi guys, and welcome once again to Curated Logic, where we try and up your brain game. It is time for the walkthrough video of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, complete with the best ending, a Pyrrhic ending, and several bad endings. Just a note to the wise before we begin, unlike other walkthroughs I have done, for this walkthrough, I am not going to be giving hints before each stage, as I really feel it's unnecessary. Rather, I am just going to show you the way, or one of the ways, to get the best result for each character's scenario. To explain what this means, let me first explain an aspect of the game of which I was unaware of when first playing, and only later, when speaking about the game to others, did I fully comprehend its significance. If you are currently playing I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, you will likely have noticed that the colour behind each character's profile picture during their scenario changes from black to different shades of green. Don't feel bad if you didn't notice this, however, as I certainly did not the first time around. It goes to show how unobservant I can be sometimes, which doesn't bode well for an adventure game. Anyway, I found out later on that this colour behind the picture is called your spiritual barometer. The colour of this barometer changes to become a brighter and brighter green as you do things that are considered to advance the character in the most spiritually advantageous way, continually showing the character's capacity for growth and learning. How lovely. If you are able to do everything correctly and never do something to reduce the spiritual barometer, the character's final action will turn the barometer white, having achieved the greatest spiritual height in the game. Other things to note that I had no idea about regarding the spiritual barometer: the psych profile you have access to may offer hints, but it does so at a cost to the character's barometer. So if you want to achieve the max spirituality, stay away from this. The barometer also kind of acts as a life bar for the endgame sequence, meaning you can sustain more damage without dying the higher your barometer is. And finally, and most frustratingly, as far as I can tell, in this redo of the game, it appears that Ellen can never actually turn her barometer white and achieve the highest level. I am not sure if this was intentional, an error, or an oversight, or I have just been unable to figure out how to achieve this, but from research, it appears many other people are in a similar boat. Now, with all that knowledge, there are also a couple of extra things to say about the actual walkthrough before we get into it. First, this walkthrough is going to be fast. In each scenario, I am doing the bare minimum, or as close to as I was able to, in order to achieve the best result. Because of this, it ignores a lot of the looking at items and people that you would naturally do in order to figure out that you had to do what I am sometimes doing. Second, although I am obviously doing things in a certain order in this walkthrough, not everything has to be followed exactly. So if you are in the middle of a scenario and I am doing something that you have not done before, something you have, this does not necessarily mean that you should start again. Keep on going and see if your order works with the info you learn from this video, and if not, go back and do it the way I show. This goes the same for when talking to other characters. I spell out the order in which I said specific things, but this is not a hard and fast rule all of the time. If you haven't lost anything on your spiritual barometer and have said nothing terribly selfish, it is likely you are still able to achieve the best ending. Finally, I focus in this walkthrough on the actual actions more so than the dialogue. This means that there will be points I explain what choices to make when speaking to another character, but will do so whilst fast forwarding through the actual dialogue. Although important to the game, I feel like the dialogue can slow down a walkthrough like this, and it is mostly unnecessary to hear it here when you will be hearing it whilst playing the game anyway. Okay, That is it for an introduction to this walkthrough. Let's get into I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream and see how it is done. GORRISTER begins his scenario placed in a room that, due to the porthole to the left and simple metal decor, we assume is aboard some sort of ship. As your first action, have GORRISTER look outside the porthole and then into the mirror on the back wall. Doing this, GORRISTER will then expose the cavity that is where his heart should be. Now, pick up the note that is left on the floor and GORRISTER will read it. It won't make much sense initially, but it won't need to. From here, leave the room by walking to the door, after which you will find yourself in a hallway. Push on the door to the far right to enter that room. In this new room, there is a book on the table. Look at it. After doing so, take the sheet that lies on the bed and exit the room to end up back in the corridor. Push open the door just to the left of the first door you exited to enter that room. Like in the last room, take the sheet from the bed. This is all you need from here, so back into the corridor you go. Walk past the only door left that you haven't opened, it is locked, and to the far left of this door to enter a new screen. In this screen, push the door closest to where you entered to find yourself in yet another living quarters. This time, instead of the sheet, take the pillow, under which you will find and keep a gun. Leave this room and enter the door to its left. Now, in what was obviously a mess hall, look at the debris that is now scattered all over the floor. You won't gain much insight into anything just yet, but this action will come in handy later. Once the debris has been examined, push open the door at the back of the room to enter the kitchen. Take the fork from the floor and the knife from the table to have these placed in your inventory. As you have previously mentioned your hunger, you will want to get your hands on the bread that is on that table. To do so, use your knife to scare away the rats on the far table and then swallow the bread. With your appetite satiated, turn your attention to the bookshelf and use the cookbook to read about the recipe for the milk of human kindness, which sounds disgusting. After replacing the cookbook, follow this by looking at the bottle next to it. Everything you need to do and learn in the kitchen is now complete. Walk to the door into the mess hall, and then to the door back into the corridor with the stairs. Moving past the hatch, walk to the far left-hand screen to find yourself in the engine room. In this room, there are 3 things you want to do on the panel. First, take the milky fluid at the far left of the panel. Second, push the lever to reveal animals in cages being tortured. Third, take the bloody key, located just to the right of the lever. With these 3 things done, leave through the door you came in through and make your way back to the mess hall. Having mentioned the blood of the animals now on your hands from the bloody key, use the tablecloth to clean your hands. Doing this should give you your first ever so slight increase in your spiritual barometer. Leave this room and make your way back to the engine room. Using the fork in the engine, short circuit the engine wiring and make it stop. Go back into the corridor and walk to the stairs in order to go up them. It is now GORRISTER realizes he must be on an airship. Use the knife with the stitching at the far end of the walkway in order to tear a hole to the outside. Use this hole to end up on the wing of the airship, which you will then recognize as a zeppelin. Use one sheet with the other in order to tie them together and then use the resulting rope with the gold mooring ring that is on the wing. With this in place, take GORRISTER's heart, which is at the end of the wing. You will now hold on to the tied rope in order to be able to get this organ safely. Doing so will add the next step up on your spiritual barometer. Once back next to the mooring ring with the heart in tow, use the knife to cut the rope and add it back into your inventory. Walk to the tear and enter back inside the ship. Now with your heart and the engines off, use the knife with 2 airbags, one at a time, in order to deflate them. After the second bag deflates, walk to the stairs, at which time a video will commence, showing the airship descending to be just above a honky-tonk. Back aboard the ship, use the hatch to take GORRISTER outside. Once outside, push the front door and enter the honky-tonk. As soon as you enter, use the jukebox on the right-hand wall. Push only on the first option and then the second, as the other two are either useless or will lower your spiritual barometer. Once you have listened to these 2 tracks, take the bottle of whiskey from the shelf behind the bar, push the back door, and end up outside with a jackal. Talk to the jackal as much as you can until the option to give him GORRISTER's heart appears. Give the jackal the heart, and in return he will give you a riddle about how to get over the mountains, saying you need to use the restroom 3 times. It is at this point GORRISTER will once again increase his spiritual barometer. End the conversation and walk to the back door to re-enter the honky-tonk. With Harry now at the bar, talk to him. Before asking any questions, and after every second question from then on, pour Harry a drink. If you do not do this, Harry will not answer you properly and just speak vaguely and unhelpfully of a thunderstorm and the desert. Speak to Harry as much as you can. Once you finish your conversation, push the restroom door to enter the restroom and look at the graffiti above the urinal and take the magnifying glass that is in the urinal. Exit the restroom and walk to the front door and use the ladder. Once back aboard the ship, enter the mess hall and use the magnifying glass on the debris. You will make a discovery about what happened to cause such a mess, and GORRISTER will again increase his spiritual barometer. Having learnt the truth, make your way back into the corridor, down the hatch, and into the honky-tonk and speak once again to Harry, still remembering to keep pouring him drinks. Ask Harry any question not about the thunderstorm or the desert, and then end the conversation. Make your way back into the restroom and employ the riddle that the jackal told you by using the stall door 3 times in order to flush the toilet those 3 times. After doing so, GORRISTER finds himself in a meat locker. Try talking to Glynis, and then, when that doesn't work, talk to Edna. Talk to Edna as much as you can, but do not give her the milky fluid, suggest you should kill her, or harm her in any way. Instead, try and take her down from the hook, at which point she will attack you. Keep talking to her while she is attacking you until she drops a key. Once you are able to, select to tie up Edna with the rope. Take the key that Edna dropped and then walk to the door to exit back into the honky-tonk. Walk back out the restroom and then push the back door to go and talk to the jackal again, and he will offer to trade your heart for Edna's. Head back through the honky-tonk to the front where the Zeppelin landed and use the ladder. Once inside the Zeppelin, walk to the right of screen to make your way back to the first corridor you were in after exiting the first room of the game. In this corridor, use Edna's key on the door nearest to where you just entered, which is locked. Opening this door gives you access to the control room. Once in this room, use the logbook that sits above the control panel and read every entry. After the second entry, GORRISTER's spiritual barometer should go up once more. Once all entries have been read, walk to the door and make your way back to the hatch, down the ladder and into the honky-tonk. Find your way back into that meat locker via the restroom. Thankfully, you will only need to use the store once this time. And once in that meat locker, give the milky fluid to Glynis and then talk to her in order to make amends. Take her down from the hook and raise GORRISTER's spiritual barometer once again. As one last set of actions in this meat locker, use the magnifying glass on the beef to reveal it has all the organs inside, and then use the knife to cut out the heart. Make your way to the back door of the honky-tonk and speak to the jackal once again. Without saying anything to him, give the jackal the beef heart, in exchange for which he will return GORRISTER's heart, and GORRISTER's spiritual barometer will increase ever so slightly. End the conversation with the jackal, and take the shovel that is leaning up against the fence on the right of the screen. Using the shovel with the ground, dig a grave and use Glynis to place her in it, increasing GORRISTER's spiritual barometer once again. Talk to the jackal one last time and ask him how to get out of here, then telling him that you have made amends and buried the past. End the conversation and make your way back through the honky-tonk to use the ladder and enter the Zeppelin for the final time. Aboard the Zeppelin, walk to the left of screen to re-enter the engine room. Walk past the engine to the right of screen to reveal another door and a harness. Use Edna's body with the harness. Once you do this, the engines of the Zeppelin will restart. Walk to the left of screen, back to where you first entered the engine room, and push the door to exit out into the corridor. Walk to the stairs, back up to the airbag room. As soon as you enter, use the switch near the beginning of the walkway to re-inflate the damaged airbags. Once these have re-inflated, walk to the stairs and then to the right of screen back into the corridor with the 4 doors. Use Edna's key one more time on the first door and enter the control room. Use the switch on the right of the control panel and a movie will start, showing the Zeppelin slowly raising into the air. When the scene cuts back to GORRISTER, exit the control room and make your way back to the stairs and into the airbag room. Once there, use the tear to exit out onto the wing. Once on the wing, use the gun on the honky-tonk. A video will then begin. GORRISTER will be struck by lightning before ascending to the highest spiritual barometer level and shooting and destroying the honky-tonk as his final way of making peace. Up next, we have Ellen. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this scenario, I have to let you all know that this is the one scenario whose best ending I could get is not like the others. No matter what I did, how hard I tried, and I indeed did try, I could not get Ellen's spiritual barometer to turn white. To me, the final green it ends on is probably the penultimate level it can get to, but how you get to the ultimate one, I do not know. If you have worked out how, or do work out how to do this in the future, please let me know, because not getting this really has bugged me, even if many people online seem to agree that it is actually unachievable. Okay, let's head back to the scenario. You start outside a pyramid, but the outside provides nothing useful to you, so as your first action, push the door of the pyramid to enter. Once inside, take a look at the water that has collected in the fountain. You will thirst for a drink, so try and use the water. On discovering that the water is just out of reach, it is time to move on to the next room. Walk to the opening that is opposite the door of the pyramid. In this room, you will find 5 monitors, each with a switch attached. Rather than look at all of the monitors, use the 4th monitor from the left to look at a shot of the room you were just in. Once you have made your commentary on this view, this time push the monitor in order to activate its switch. This action will reveal a passageway hidden in the wall behind the fountain. In order to be able to make this passageway able to be activated, use the wiring that is situated just below the first monitor. Once this is done, head back into the first room. Here, in order to reveal the passageway, push the area of the wall where the passageway should be, and presto, a secret passage. Despite not wanting to, walk down the passageway. Although much to play with in the first room you enter, ignore this space and move through to the second room that contains the table with the robotic arm on it. Take the forceps from between the arm's fingers, followed by attempting to take the yellow fabric that lies by the entrance of the room. On the first attempt to take the fabric, you will be frightened by the colour of it and unable to pick it up, leaving the room in a panic. Do not stress, however, as you can just head back into the room and try to pick up the fabric again. This time, you will be successful. Now, with the fabric in hand, rather than explore further into the pyramid, for the time being, head back out up the secret passageway from where you came, and then back into the room with the 5 monitors. Once in this room, use the yellow fabric and you will make a blindfold for yourself. Once blindfolded, walk to the passageway at the far end of the room. Having done this, you will find yourself in a room that is guarded by a sphinx, which, because you are blindfolded, you will think has gone and you are unafraid of. You will then use this sense of ignorant confidence to take the cup from the pedestal in the center of the room, returning the way you came with your first improvement on your spiritual barometer. Now back in the room with the monitors, use the yellow fabric again to remove your blindfold. Having now a cup from which you can drink, head back to the first room of the pyramid and use the cup with the water. You will find that with the cup you can just reach the water and fill it up. Swallow the water and then repeat filling and drinking. The third time you fill up the cup, however, you will just need to keep it to use later. Now your thirst has been quenched, you are ready to explore downstairs further. Head back down the secret passageway into the room with the sarcophagus. As your first step in this room, look at the sarcophagus. Once you have finished your diatribe on why it scares you, try and use it. You will find that it is locked. From here, move from the sarcophagus and try to use the keypad next to the statue of Anubis. Before you get to use it though, Anubis will stop you. So, talk to Anubis. Using the first option each time, talk to Anubis as much as you can. Obviously unimpressed by the robot Egyptian god, you seemingly decide to destroy him as best you can. Use the cup of water on Anubis. Although this action may seem mean, what did the robot ever do to you? It offers the next increase in your spiritual barometer. Now, using the forceps you acquired from the robot hand on the robot Anubis, remove the robot Anubis's ROM chip. Now that you have defiled a robot, you are able to move further into the pyramid, walking through the room with the robotic arm and into a room with a number of statues. The only statue you will need to worry about is the one in the middle with the blue gem in its chest. Still afraid of yellow, which just so happens to be the colour of the statue, of course, use the fabric once again as a blindfold. Once your blindfold is again secure, take the gem from within the centre of the statue. Now, I'm going to pause here to explain something that confused me for quite a while in this game. Once you remove the gem, what is quite obviously a CD-ROM appears on the statue's chest. Hint to the wise, do not try and do anything with this CD-ROM at this point. For whatever reason, whether a glitch or intentional, Ellen can't seem to see it or interact with it properly, and you just trying to make something happen will just end up wasting as much time as I did. It really is pointless. Leave it to now, and we will come back to it. I promise. Alright, so we have just picked up the gem, so it is time to walk to the passage on the right of the screen. Doing this, you will find yourself in a room with 3 workstations. But you are still blindfolded, so remove that so you can see what you are doing. Once the blindfold is removed, use the gem you took from the statue and place it in the left workstation, as it is missing a gem. With this workstation now active, use the 4 steps that contain the CD-ROM chip with the workstation. The ROM chip will fit into the workstation perfectly. So now it is time to use that workstation. The workstation is used to reprogram the ROM chip, so when asked who to designate as the new master, choose yourself. Once this is complete, use the 4 steps on the workstation once again to remove the newly reprogrammed chip. For the time being, you are finished in this room, so walk back to the passageway and keep going until you return to the room in which stands Anubis. Use the ROM chip on Anubis, with the level of your spiritual barometer increasing as a result. Talk to Anubis as much as you can, using the first option each time, and he will give you the code for the keypad next to him. Once your conversation is done, use the keypad and enter 666. The code Anubis just gave you. After hearing the clicking sound of a lock opening, use the sarcophagus and you will finally be able to open it. Once the sarcophagus is open, use it again to enter it. Having walked into the sarcophagus, you now find yourself in an elevator with clothes on the ground and a control panel on the wall. Use the control panel and push each of the years presented in order. Once this semi-laborious task is complete, the clothes will come to life and you will finally find out why Ellen has panic attacks and why she is so afraid of the colour yellow. Talk to your attacker as much as you can, once again using the first option each time until you reach the 3 options to run away, fight back, or give up. Choose to fight back. In doing this, the clothes will crumple once again to the floor and the elevator doors will open. In what is perhaps the most fitting time within the game for it to do so, this action will also make your spiritual barometer level increase. You are also no longer afraid of the colour yellow, so you will have no more issues relating to this fear again. Walk through the elevator doors. Now, in what appears to be what it would be like to live inside a computer, the first thing you want to do is take a look at the AM logo that is suspended in mid-air. After examining that, take a look at the component to the left of the elevator doors and then at the wiring to the right. These 3 things are the main things to look at in this room currently, so walk down the pathway and out the exit passage. Make your way back through the room with the statues to the one with the 3 workstations. This time, instead of the left workstation, use the right one. When you are asked for a numeric password, enter 2012, the year you were attacked. Inquire about all 3 topics you are presented with in order, and you should end up looking at some schematics for some sort of device. After figuring out that all you need is a speaker and you should be able to jerry-rig the device together, head out of this room and back to the first room of the pyramid. Once you are back where you first entered, take the speaker that is on the opposite side of the back wall from where the entrance to the secret passage is. With the speaker now in your inventory, make your way back to the room the elevator led you out at and use the speaker with the wiring. This will produce a waterfall with one of the 3 supercomputers contained within it for you to speak with, and bring along with it another spike in your spiritual barometer. Speak to this computer as much as you can, using the first options that are provided to you each time. Now, this is where that good old glitch or frustrating element of the game is finally resolved. Having been told that the computer has revealed something to you you have overlooked, or in my case, looked at too much and just couldn't do anything with it, head back to the room with the statues and you will finally be able to take the CD-ROM that is where the gem used to be. Given this was more than a teensy bit annoying, I was glad to see that this also increased my spiritual barometer once more. Now you finally have the compact disc, head back into the room with the 3 workstations and use the CD with the middle station, followed by using the station itself. When the CD fires up, select to activate Chaos Trembler and then to proceed, despite being warned of potential damage done. Once more, your barometer should rise. Now, with the pyramid sealed and you trapped inside, head back to the room in which stands Anubis and talk to him one last time. Ask him how to check out of this hotel, to which he will answer that paradise awaits through the sarcophagus. As you did last time, use the sarcophagus once to open it and once more to walk inside, completing Ellen's scenario, albeit seemingly not completely. You, as Benny, begin up the top of a long staircase, beneath which is a forest and some caves. Try walking up and down the stairs and you will immediately slide down them, cursing Am for making you a cripple. Once you have finished cussing Am out, walk to the caves in the background of the current scene. The first cave you will want to visit is the second one from the left, the one that is glowing the most green. Entering the cave, you come across the elder of the forest's tribe on a throne and a bag next to him. Look at the bag and then try to talk to the elder. You won't get very far as he is not speaking a language you understand. Once you have interpreted what you think the elder is saying, use the screen with the Am logo on it. Am will speak a little, at which time it is time to exit the cave. Before venturing to any other cave, walk to the far right of the screen and you will end up at a fruit tree. Take the fruit that is hanging from the lowest branch and try to swallow it. You will quickly find out that you can't. Exit this screen from where you came and then do a 180 and go back to the tree. Miraculously, the fruit has grown back super fast, so once again, pick the fruit from the lowest branch, but this time, do not eat it. Walk back to the caves. Now you are back at the entrance of the caves, enter the third cave, the one to the right of the Elder's cave. Here you will find a young boy and his mother. After now cussing out these apparent parasites, give the new fruit you just picked to the boy, an action that will be your first increase in your spiritual barometer. The boy will begin to use the monitor in the cave to communicate with you. Speak with the boy as much as you can, and you will learn valuable information about a sacrificial lottery and the boy and his mother's position in their society. Once you have finished speaking with the boy, leave the cave. You can now use the twine that hangs from a shelf above the caves to drop a piece of fruit to the ground. Take this fruit and return to the cave with the boy. This time, give the piece of fruit to the boy's mother, and she will ever so delightfully digest the food for you and then regurgitate it back into your mouth. Benny's words, not mine. This event will bring out the next increase in your spiritual barometer. After this disgustingly beautiful act is complete, talk to the boy again and say you are getting tired. The boy will suggest you sleep here, so you can now use the bed of roots and vines, which I can only imagine is incredibly comfortable. You will then wake up the next morning. Directly upon waking up, talk to the boy again. Once he explains where his mother is, walk out of the cave and down the path directly ahead of the cave's entrance. As soon as you get to the sacrificial altar, talk to the elder. First, ask him why everyone is there, then why the mother is being tied to the altar, then, if you can watch, which may seem hard, but it doesn't harm your spiritual barometer. I am guessing this is because the only other option you are giving is to ask to eat her. Lesser of the two evils, yes? I think so. Anyway, I digress. From here, you watch the sacrifice, and then when the mother is blasted to bits, you unselfishly wonder, how the hell am I going to eat now? Look at the debris, and then walk away from the scene, to the left, past the caves, and back to the first scene at the bottom of the stairs. From here, walk to the far right of screen, down the path in front of the stairs. Here, you come across 3 gravestones. Talk to each gravestone in turn, always asking what you can do to prove you are a different man. If you ask anything else, your spiritual barometer will diminish. Having spoken to all 3, I spoke to Murphy again, but I'm not 100% sure it is necessary. From here, head back up the path and past the stairs to the caves once again. Head back to the boy's cave and speak to him. Talk to the boy as much as you can, using the first options only. Once you have finished speaking, exit the boy's cave and head next door to the elder's cave. With this cave now empty, take the lottery bag that is next to the throne. Once again, this action will increase your spiritual barometer. Go back to the boy's cave and tell the boy about stealing the lottery bag. This is all you will need to say. Having told you to hide the bag, head out of the cave and once again use the twine to get some more fruit. Once you have the fruit in hand, head back to the left, past the stairs and to the graveyard. Talk to Murphy and tell him that you have the lottery bag, to which he will instruct you to speak with Thomas. Do this. Thomas will instruct you to hide the bag in the earth, which you will do automatically, and then let you know that another grave of someone you have wronged is hidden behind the vines next to Murphy. Learning of this, and having been forgiven by the other 3, your spiritual barometer will increase once more. With the new information, push the vines next to Murphy to reveal Brickman's grave. Talk to Brickman, first about not blaming him for hating you, and then about planting something on his grave. Selecting this option will automatically plant the fruit you are carrying in front of Brickman's grave, miraculously turning into a flower immediately. For this action, Brickman recognizes the compassion you have learnt, and your spiritual barometer goes up once again. Leave the grave sites, head back to the boy's cave and use the bed. Upon waking, leave the boy's cave and head back into the cave with the elder, who will now have returned to be sitting on his throne. Ignore the elder and just use the screen to learn that the lottery is still going ahead, despite you having hidden the bag. Having learnt this tidbit, head back to the boy's cave to share it with your little buddy. Choose the option that attempts to convince the boy to hide in the hole, then the one about your friends being far away or dead, then what you can do to help, and end with saying you will see what you can find. Leaving the cave, first head back to the altar where the boy's mother was sacrificed. This time, however, instead of just looking at the debris, take it, which will give you something that resembles a robot's head. This is all you need from here, so head back to the caves. Enter the first cave from the left. Here, you can ignore everything except the vines that are growing up the wall. Take the vines and you will find a loose wire amongst them, adding this to your inventory. Leave this cave. Once outside again, for one final time, use the twine to get a piece of fruit. From here, head into the final cave. First off, try and give the guard the piece of fruit you just scored. He will refuse this and direct you to put it with the other fruit in the baskets behind him. Not one for wanting to disobey authority, do as you are told. But your good deserves some payment, no? Whilst you are still behind the guard in the shop, take the wood that is just at the entrance of the supermarket. You will do this without the guard seeing, and now have all the things the boy needs to make a doll. Because of this, you must now head back out of the cave and into the boys' one. Talk to the boy and tell him each of the things you have found to help him make the doll. Each item will improve your spiritual barometer. Once he has all three things, the boy will head into the hole and you can, and should, have a well-deserved sleep. When you wake, the first thing you do is look in the hole to check on the boy. On finding the hole empty, and assuming that the villagers must have found him, head back to the altar where the boy's mother was sacrificed. Because you apparently have the memory of a fish, or perhaps you just find it amusing, as you did before, ask why everyone is gathered around the altar. However, rather than just sitting back with your popcorn this time and watching the show, you are offered the chance to plead for the boy's life. Do this, and then when this falls on deaf ears, offer to take the boy's place yourself. This deal is accepted, and because of your final, extreme act of compassion, your spiritual barometer turns white, and you have achieved the best ending you could for Benny. Next up is NIMDOK. Out of all of the scenarios, this one and Ellen's were the two that I felt hit home emotionally the best. You first appear outside a wire gate and some buildings protected by a guard, and behind the wire gate is a prisoner. Start by talking to the guard. This is an automatic conversation, so you will have no choices to make. Once your conversation with the guard is done, look at the gate behind him and then talk to the prisoner. Choose the first option each time and eventually the conversation will end. Now it is time to inspect inside the building, so walk to the hospital to go inside. On first entry into the hospital, you will be accosted by another doctor, with whom you will have a brief discussion about what is happening at this compound. After this doctor leaves, look at the poster on the wall that says 1945, and then walk into the surgery that is behind the curtain on the right side of the screen. Another doctor will be in there waiting for you, and you will need to talk to him as well. Always choose the first option to get as much information as you can. At the end of the questioning of this doctor, try to take the ether that is on the bottom shelf of the trolley next to you. When the doctor denies your ability to do this, take the scalpel that is on the top shelf. Although I was sure this was going to ruin my spiritual barometer somehow, use the scalpel on the doctor to stab him. Because you are acting to save the patients, your spiritual barometer goes up for the first time. Apparently, 2 wrongs do make a right, or something at least to that effect. With the doctor now incapacitated or dead, you can now take the ether that he was denying you from the shelf. With that now safely in your inventory, walk behind the curtain at the back of the room to recovery. In the recovery room, look at each patient in turn. Each of them are too injured to be able to talk with you, so after assessing each patient, rather than returning the way you came, push the vent in the middle of the room's back wall. Discovering this not-so-secret exit, you will gain another level on your spiritual barometer. With the vent now open, use it to find yourself in the world's worst office, complete with desk, lamp, and 3 built-in ovens for cremating your victims. Ignore the ovens and pay attention to the desk, taking the pliers and the watch, and then reading the documents, all which sit atop it. Once all of these actions have been completed, leave this hellhole via the door. Exiting this room leads you back outside to your initial arrival point by the gate. This time, however, in addition to the guard and the prisoner from before, another prisoner is present, stuck trying to escape by climbing over the wire fence. Talk to this man first, suggesting initially to call the doctors, then the guard, and finally saying that there is nothing you can do. After being berated for being cold-hearted, prove yourself not to be by using the ether on this man to alleviate his pain. Then, to prove yourself even further, use the pliers on the trapped prisoner to set him free from the fence. To thank you for your kindness, the prisoner will give you some information that will prove useful later on, and is important to remember. Waken the sleeper, utter the truth, and kiss him. The trapped prisoner will then lose consciousness. Unable to talk to the man in the fence anymore, move your attention over to the original prisoner and talk to him once again, using each of the first options you are presented with. During this conversation, after you ask the prisoner to translate the inscription on the watch, your barometer will rise again. Once the prisoner suggests that you can make amends by helping him escape the camp, give him the pliers. He will thank you, but remind you that this does not erase the evils you have already done. Hearing this, and the generosity you showed, earns you another increase on your spiritual barometer. With this conversation now over, head back into the hospital. After a message on a speaker plays upon you entering the hospital, head back behind the curtain to the surgery. A new patient is on the table, so begin talking with him. Be nice and choose the first options. As he will for any option you choose at this point, he will simply ask you to please disconnect the wires connecting his eye sockets to the eyeballs in a jar next to him. Rather than ask him any more and prolong his pain, instead of talking to him again, use the ether on him. Another act of kindness, another rise for your spiritual barometer. Now more soothed, the patient will talk about a vision he sees, which will not make sense now, but will do so later on. When the patient has finished talking, take the jars with the eyes and head back to the recovery room behind the curtain at the back of the room. Once in recovery, you will notice that the young boy who was originally on the operating table the first time you entered the surgery now occupies the once empty bed. Talk to him. There are some options in here that may seem a little egotistical and you might think run the risk of reducing your barometer, but do not stress. Talk to the boy as much as you can. Your final question about the fall of the regime will spark yet another improvement for your spiritual barometer. With this conversation now done, leave the recovery room back the way you came, making your way to the first room of the hospital. Once in this room, an announcement will explain that the prisoners have taken over the compound. Before you can leave to see what is happening, however, you need to keep the jar with the eyes safe. Take the box that now sits atop the desk, and then, once it is in your inventory, use the jar with the eyeballs with it to place the jar securely inside. With this now done, you can now safely head back outside. Now you are outside, you will see a small group of prisoners along with the first prisoner you spoke to, all on your side of the fence. Speak once again to the lead prisoner. In speaking to him, follow this pattern. First, say that you have the materials to remedy your atrocities. Then, ask why they say you are one of them, followed by asking if that means they will let you go. After doing all this, your surroundings will immediately change. In this new place, first and foremost, look at the wall of screaming faces and then at the mass grave. Once you have reflected on both of these things, walk into the bunker. The first thing you need to do once in the bunker is to use the teletype in the back right-hand corner of the room, on which you will read some information about a project being run. After this, walk through the doorway to the right. Now in a new room, you will find a currently inanimate golem, of which the tribal folklore of the prisoners spoke. Before trying to interact with the golem, push the switch next to the vat. With the vat now off, you can, somewhat strangely, take the vat. This will not actually do anything with the vat itself, but remove a mirror that is at its bottom. With the mirror now in tow, look at it to reveal a revelation about yourself and remember a shameful part of your past. Now having learnt more about your history and that which you hadn't remembered, turn your attention to the blackboard behind you and look at the blueprints. As the blueprints discuss the golem, it is now time to see if you can bring him to life. To begin with, use the jar with the eyes on the golem and you will place the eyeballs into the golem's socket. Having done this, now talk to the golem. In this part, I cannot be sure how precise my method is, as I was still able to achieve the same result in a longer, more convoluted way, so perhaps there is a simpler way that I have just not done. Either way, start by remembering what the man in the barbed wire said. Then say in order, time is truth, Gollum wake up, the truth is that for you it will always be 1945, and finally kiss the Gollum. Once you have done this, the Gollum will arise, raising your spiritual barometer in tandem. As your first instruction to the Gollum, have him follow you into the laboratory. Now back in the original room of the bunker, you will run into Dr. Mengele. Talk to Mengele as much as you can. Then, to give him a taste of the medicine you yourself just experienced, use the mirror on him. Forcing his revelation of the horrors he has done will mean another increase for your barometer. With this done, talk to the Gollum and have him follow you outside. As soon as you are outside, you will run into the leader of the prisoners, who has finally caught up to you to make you pay for what you have done. As soon as you are able to, transfer control of the Gollum over to the Lost Tribe. Doing so will allow the prisoner to seek his revenge and order the Gollum to kill you, but will also mean your barometer level will rise one last time, achieving that white status that you were playing for. Now on to Ted, apparently the hunk of the group. You start outside what looks to be a hexagonal building with a path leading towards an entrance. You don't have to do anything here but the obvious. Walk to the entrance. Once inside the hexagon dream, you will be presented with 5 screens, each with a different setting. Like in Ellen's scenario, only one is of any use to you, but this time, if you choose to use the wrong one, you will fail your scenario immediately and have to start from the beginning again. To save yourself from this fate, even though each monitor has a handprint next to it, push the actual monitor that has the image of a castle on it. It is to this castle that you will be then transported. Standing outside the castle, I cannot be certain you need to for sure do this, but I looked at everything I could before walking to the entrance. Now, inside the castle, you are first going to do a bit of exploring. Firstly, look at both of the tapestries that hang on the far wall. Having done this, walk to the room to the left on the same wall as the doorway you entered from. In this room, which you will discover to likely be the master bedroom, use the books on the bookshelf. Doing this, you will be offered a number of titles to read. As boring as it might seem, but not so Ted apparently, read each book, including all of the entries that are contained within the journal. It is in reading the 3rd entry in the journal that you will be given your first increase to your spiritual barometer. For the time being, the books are the only things in this room that you have to look at, so walk back to the door. Once back in the corridor, walk across to the door that is opposite the door you just came out of, on the other side of the wall with the tapestries. And wouldn't you know it, it is time for some more reading. Use the books on the shelf and read each of the books that you can. You will learn information in the 2nd book that is relevant to the story, so this will raise your spiritual barometer up to the next level. Once you have finished reading everything you can, take the piece of shattered glass that is lying next to the bed and exit the room back into the corridor. Having now searched the 2 rooms either side of it, it is now time to enter the room with its entrance in the middle of the back wall. Entering this room, you discover Ellen lying in a bed. Talk to her as much as you can using the first option each time. Eventually, you will discover the overarching mission for this scenario. That is, to find Ellen's hand mirror. Once you learn this information, once again your spiritual barometer will rise. It initially seems a simple enough task, as Ellen tells you her mirror is on her dressing table. When she says this, look at the dressing table. Not wanting to do you out of a bit of good old gameplay, the mirror is not on the dressing table. With no mirror to be seen, talk once again to Ellen and let her know that it is not there. She will tell you that you have to find it, to which you promptly tell her to go to sleep. Once she is back off in slumberland, leave the room. Back in the corridor, make your way to the passage to the right of the screen, whose entrance has an upside down pentagram over it. When in this room, there are two main things to do. First, take the golden icon one of the statues is holding. Then, use the nearest sconce to the right of the statue you just took the icon from. Doing this will reveal a secret passageway. I am not sure if it is necessary to do so, but I chose this moment to inspect where the secret passageway leads, which ends up being some sort of ritual's chamber. Look at whatever you want in this room and then exit back down the stairs. For now, leave this room as well. Once back in the corridor, you may not have noticed, as I didn't for a decent amount of time, that at the bottom of the screen there is an unseen door that you can use. Walk to this door and you will enter the castle's kitchen. Upon entering the kitchen, talk to the maid. Talk to her as much as you can until she asks you to sleep with her. See, he is a hunk indeed. From there, even though she will ask you a number of times, always refuse to sleep with her. Eventually, she will get the hint and offer to help you if you can fix the oven. After your chat finishes, use the oven in order to fix it. Having done your handyman duty, strike up another conversation with the maid. She will probably tell you that she never intended to help you and just wanted to be able to make dinner. Although I was hesitant to do so, your only option is to call her a bitch. But this foul language doesn't impact your spiritual barometer, so have at it. The conversation will then end, but as persistent as she was to try and bed you, you be persistent in trying to get the information you need from her. So, talk to her again straight away. Unlike you did, however, she gives into your request and gives you some information you need, with which comes another rise in your spiritual barometer. With this information in hand, before you leave, attempt to enter the maid's bedroom. You will find that the door is locked, but this little fact will be helpful later on. Exit the kitchen back into the hallway. If everything has gone right up until this point, you should now be privy to a conversation between Ellen's stepmother and another woman or spirit about an upcoming sacrifice. Let the conversation end, and when you gain control of your body again, make your way back down the passageway in which you saw the shadows of the women. Back in the underground room, once again use the sconce to reveal the secret stairs and make your way up to the ritual chamber. In the chamber, you will finally find the witch that is Ellen's stepmother. Talk to the witch as much as you can, using the first option each time until you get a choice between asking what is in it for you and saying that you ought to kill the witch instead. Between these two, opt to threaten to kill the witch. Doing it this way should alleviate you having to turn down the witch as you did the maid, but if the witch does at any point suggest you sleep with her, refuse her as well. Your threat to the witch ends the conversation, as it probably should do, and there is nothing to do in here for the moment. Head back down the stairs and make your way back to the corridor that has the tapestries. Now, I will say, the next part of the game, I do not quite understand why I had to do it, but doing so is the next thing that increases your spiritual barometer, so make sure you do not miss it. Back in the corridor, use the icon you originally took from the underground room with the door that is off one of its hinges. Another heroic handyman feat, this will fix the door, but it will still remain open. To close it, push the suit of armor in its way. If anything screams being spiritually beneficial, it is that. Am I right? Simple or not, as I said, your spiritual barometer has thanked you for it. With that arduous task now complete, head back in to see Ellen. Entering Ellen's room, you will discover that she is not alone, joined now, on her right, by a devil. Talk to the devil as much as you can, using the first option each time until the conversation ends. From there, talk once again to Ellen, also using the first option each time and telling her that you are still yet to find the mirror. Having suitably disappointed your one true love, leave her to sleep with a devil by her side, because that of course is safe, and make your way back into the bedroom to the right with the magic books. In this room, once again use the books on the bookshelf, this time revealing 2 extra books that you can read. Read the book Double Double Toil and Trouble, taking note to remember the incarnation. With these 3 words emblazoned into your memory, do what you need to make your way back up to the ritual chamber with the witch in it. Talk to the witch first thing, telling her that you know all about the sleeping potion she used on Ellen. When she suggests you don't have the power to use the same spell on her, use it by saying the words of the incarnation, Kella, Ingmar, Thako. The witch will then fall asleep, dropping a piece of chalk as she does, and your spiritual barometer will go up. Pick up the chalk the witch dropped, and straight away use it on the circle. With Surgat now appearing, your barometer will once again increase. Talk to Surgat using the first option each time, ending by asking him if he can unlock the maid's bedroom door. Although Surgat says he can, he needs some energy, so give him the tasty piece of glass that has your blood on it. After he licks the glass clean, you will talk to Surgat once again. Ask him once more to unlock the maid's bedroom door. Doing this, your spiritual barometer increases yet again. End your part of the conversation by saying that you don't believe him, and then Surgat will suggest that you check yourself, which is a good suggestion at this point in the game. Make your way back down the stairs, through the underground and the corridor, to the kitchen. Now the maid is no longer in the kitchen, you can go ahead and do a gentlemanly snoop around in her room. Use her bedroom door and you'll find it unlocked. Once in the maid's bedroom, the only thing you will need to do is to look at the tapestry on the wall that shows the devil looking into a hand mirror. Now this is information you can use to your advantage. Ignore the rest of the bedroom and leave to make your way back to Ellen's room. In Ellen's room, the devil will still be there, joined this time by an angel. Ignore the angel to begin with and talk to the devil as much as you can using the first options. From this, you should get a cryptic clue as to where the mirror has been hidden. After this conversation, talk to the angel as much as you can and then leave the room. From the corridor, make your way back into the master bedroom. As you did before, use the books on the bookshelf in order to read them. This time, however, you can ignore all the books except for the Divine Comedy. Reading it, you will find within its pages Ellen's hand mirror, and go up one more notch on your barometer. Your main task complete, head back to Ellen's room to share with her the good news. Entering the room, talk to Ellen first and tell her that you have found her mirror, and then give it to her. Ellen will then die. Once the angel and devil have stopped fighting about who would win in a battle of waiting it out, take the mirror I assume you have grabbed from Ellen's cold, dead hands and use it on the devil, trapping him inside it. This action will yet again increase your spiritual prowess via your barometer and allow the angel to safely guide Ellen's soul to heaven. With Ellen now gone and her soul saved, you have one more task to complete. Head out of her room and back up to the ritual chamber where the witch is sleeping. Once you have entered the chamber, use the mirror with the circle in order to trap the devil in with Surgat. This final step will turn your barometer white, up to the highest it can be. Finish the stage by using the first options when talking to Surgat, eventually finding yourself on the barren wasteland that was Earth. So now we move on to the endgame. As I said in the introduction, I will run through 7 endings. The best ending a player can achieve, a Pyrrhic ending where neither the player nor the supercomputers truly win given the costs they endure, and then 5 different ways to reach the bad ending. I'm going to show each bad ending with a different character, as although each bad ending is basically the same, the quotes each character says are slightly different, so it is worth seeing each one in turn. Each ending, whether bad, Pyrrhic, or good, will have the same beginning, so it is worthwhile watching the good ending first, as this is where that beginning part will be explained. We begin with the best ending. At the beginning of any ending, you need to choose which character you will enter the endgame scenario to play for all the other characters. For the best outcome, it is best to choose NIMDOK. The reason for this is because the first thing you need to do is to use the workstation next to which you appear, and NIMDOK is the only one who straight off the bat suggests the correct password, 1945. Enter this password in, and ignoring all other options that are there, choose to extend the bridge. Walk over the bridge to find yourself at a ritual site reminiscent of the witches in Ted's scenario. This time though, with fire in the middle of the summoning circle. From your inventory, use the totem of summoning with the circle and, like with Ted, Surgat will appear. Talk to Surgat, asking him about the way out, what he is to show you, and then as much as you can until Surgat asks you to give him the totem of entropy. Refuse this request. Surgat will then ask you to use the totem of compassion. Ask Surgat why he wants you to invoke this totem, and then, after he explains, invoke it. Doing this, the Russian and Chinese supercomputers will appear and banish Surgat. Listen to what the supercomputers have to say, indicating that they want you to disable Am's ego and no more, and then leave back the way you came. Back at the workstation, you can follow the neural path any way you want, as everything you need to do is along the path somewhere. I chose to go to the left, where you will come across a column with a face on it that is the program's id. Talk to the id. Talk to the id about who it is, if it can help, and then about broken glass. After this, walk away. After doing this, use the totem of compassion on the id to shut it down. With this done, continue on your journey down the neural path. Although you will come to a number of different locations along the path, ignore all of them except those that have the columns with faces on them. After a few screens, the next one you will come across is the ego. Like with the id, talk to the ego. Ask it who it is, if it is Am, and if it wants to harm you, then walk away. This time, use the totem of forgiveness on the ego, and it too, after a little diatribe, will shut down. Carry on down the pathway through a couple more screens until you reach the final column. This final face belongs to the superego. Talk to the superego as much as you can until you are given the option to ask what advice it has for you. Ask it. After this advice has been given, use the totem of clarity on the superego. The superego will then, too, shut down. With all 3 parts of the program now shut down, continue down the path until you reach the starting point with the workstation. Once there, head back across the bridge to the supercomputers. If you have correctly shut down all 3 components of Am, you will see in between the supercomputers the 3 faces of the id, ego, and superego. Listen what is said, and then once the computers stop babbling on, Am will ask you to relinquish the totem of entropy. When you are given the choice, invoke this totem. Doing so will destroy the supercomputers, Am, and everything Am created. Plus, it will begin the defrost sequence for the 750 humans in hibernation in the lunar base, and start terraforming a new Earth for them to live on. So, not only did you save yourself and the other 4 characters being tortured by Am, but you saved humankind as well. Nice job! For the Pyrrhic Ending, after talking to Surgat and then the supercomputers, rather than disabling all three components of AM, disable any other combination of them as long as it isn't solely the ego disabled, as the supercomputers wanted. In this case, I disabled both the ego and the superego, but not the id. Having done this, return to the supercomputers and ask what you can do to escape from here. They will berate you for being disobedient and tell you that an eternal stalemate has eventuated. After they finish speaking, use the totem of entropy on the supercomputers. Although this will see you and your friends free from eternal torture and destroy what AM had created, the last humans in hibernation on the moon will not begin defrosting and will rather be terminated, meaning an overall lose-lose for humanity versus the machine. For the first bad ending, when you are first talking with Surgat, give him the totem of entropy. Although nothing will happen initially, when you invoke the totem of compassion to bring forth the Russian and Chinese supercomputers, Surgat will use the totem of entropy on them on Ham's behalf. In doing this, Am becomes the only supercomputer left. Surgat then leaves your fate in Am's hands, which Am uses to turn you into a great, soft jelly thing. The second bad ending is as quick as the first. This time, however, instead of giving Surgat the totem of entropy, after the two supercomputers appear, use the totem of entropy yourself on them at the first opportunity. Although this works nicely for Am, as he says, he will not display any gratitude toward you, rather finding it fitting to turn you into that great soft jelly thing he loves to turn you into. The next bad ending is as easy to complete as just doing what the supercomputers want you to do. Disable only Am's ego. When you do this and return to the supercomputers, they will reveal to you that this was their plan in order to be able to hold dominion over Am. Now completely controlling Am, the Russian and Chinese supercomputers give Am one last gift. That is, to choose your fate. His choice? Unsurprisingly, to once again turn you into a great soft jelly thing to live out eternity. Another bad ending starts the same way as the good ending does. After speaking with the supercomputers, disable all three components of Am and return to the summoning circle. This time, however, instead of evoking the totem of entropy when Am asks you to relinquish it, give Am the totem. This act will hand over any power you had over Am and the supercomputers, leaving Am to turn you into a great soft jelly thing for all of eternity. The final bad ending is an easy one, but one that can be done in multiple ways. Simply put, you just need to kill each of the characters during the endgame scenario. Even though this can be done in multiple ways, I am going to show you a specific way for each character, as they each have a scenario within the endgame they are alone meant to be a part of. This will all make sense as I kill them off one by one. Let's start with NIMDOK. After you have finished speaking to the supercomputers the first time, walk the neural path until you find the scene with the 5 skulls. When there, use the middle skull to reveal a hand reaching up from the ground. Take the hand and NIMDOK will reflect on what he has done. After this, a pillar will raise from the ground behind him. Use the totem of access with the pillar and you will be able to access it. From here, continually use the pillar. This will reduce your spiritual barometer one part at a time, eventually leading to your death. Next up, GORRISTER. Go left along the neural path until you reach a scene with a holographic projector lit by a blue lamp. Use the projector to turn it on. Although a holograph of a woman will appear, this is done for Benny's scenario, so ignore this and walk to the next screen. Here you will find 3 cryogenic cylinders and a workstation. Use the workstation and then select to raise the power node, followed by opening cylinder 3. Log off and then use the totem of life with Glynis, who should have appeared in cylinder 3. Glynis will activate the power node, say a few words to you and return to the cylinder. Once the cylinder door is closed, head over to the power node and use it continually until you die. Having switched on the holographic projector for him, it is now time to kill Benny. Walk to the scene with the projector and talk to Manya, the projection. Whilst talking to her, a pillar will raise next to you. Use the Totem of Love with Manya and she will be given flowers, which will also grow on the pillar. Now, use the pillar as others have done before you, as many times as you need in order to kill yourself. For Ted's death, you want to head to the same scene with the skulls where NIMDOK interacted with the hand in the ground. This time, however, Ted should pick up the skull that is to the far right, revealing a remote control. Take the remote control. Walk to the neural path to the right of screen, and you will first end up in a scene with two gargoyles either side of a pit. Use the remote control with either gargoyle, and a pillar with swords will arise from the ground. The gargoyles will then begin to shoot lasers that bounce off the swords down the pillar. Use the Totem of Gallantry with the pillar, and these lasers will be shorted out. Now all that is left to do is follow in your friend's footsteps and use the pillar again and again until death. The final death we look at is Ellen's. Like NIMDOK and Ted before you, head to the scene with the skulls, this time picking up the one to the far left. Doing this will reveal a gem like the one used with the workstations in the pyramid. Take this gem and head back down the neural path to the left until you reach the volcanic scene that has a hole in a spike protruding from the ground. Use the gem in this hole and a pillar will rise up. Use the Totem of Valor with the pillar and the power controls will be lowered so you can now use the pillar to kill yourself. It is here, however, as the last character to kill yourself, that Anne will jump in just before you die and inflict one last piece of torture on you as his last surviving victim. Just like the other bad endings, this torture entails being turned into a great, soft jelly thing. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and I hope it helped in some way should you be stuck anywhere. As much as I was not a massive fan of this game when playing through it, doing this walkthrough has given me a slightly better perspective on it, and I'm glad that I have had to play it again. If you want to continue upping your brain game, please like and subscribe to this channel, or you can follow Curated Logic on any of the socials listed above and below. And if you want to support the channel and anything else we are creating, you can do so through our Patreon. As always, if there is any games you would like to see me review or do a walkthrough for, please let me know in the comments below. I hope wherever you are in the world you are keeping safe and happy. Until next time, keep upping your brain game and have fun. See ya.